Imagine a weapon so terrifying that the enemy begs you to stop using it. In 1918, the German army was the most feared military force on Earth. They had introduced the world to poison gas. They used flamethrowers to burn men alive. They dropped bombs from zeppelins on civilians. Yet, on September 19, 1918, the German government issued a desperate diplomatic protest to Washington, D.C. They claimed that the American military was using a weapon that was barbaric and inhumane. They threatened to execute any American soldier caught with it. They weren't talking about a tank. They weren't talking about a chemical. They were talking about a shotgun. The Winchester Model 1897. So, here is the question: how did a simple shotgun scare the army that invented modern warfare? To understand the fear, you have to understand the battlefield. The trenches of the Western Front were a claustrophobic nightmare. Imagine standing in a muddy ditch, barely 3 feet wide. You turn a corner and suddenly, the enemy is right in your face. At this range, the standard German rifle, the Mauser, was useless. It was 5 feet long. It was heavy. And if you missed your first shot, you had to manually pull a bolt back and forth to load the next one. By the time you did that, you were already dead. The Americans knew this. So, when they arrived in Europe, they brought a little piece of home. A weapon used by police officers and hunters back in the States. The trench broom. But this wasn't just any shotgun. This was the Model 97. And it had a secret feature that turned it into a weapon of mass destruction. It was called slam fire. On modern guns, you have to pull the trigger for every single shot. But on the Model 97, you could just hold the trigger down and pump the handle as fast as you could. Let's look at the math. Each shell contained 9 pellets of .00 buckshot. Each pellet was roughly the size of a handgun bullet. With slam fire, an American soldier could empty the gun in roughly 2 seconds. That's 6 shots. 54 lead projectiles. All flying down a narrow hallway in the blink of an eye. For a German soldier on the receiving end, there was no dodging. There was no hiding. It was essentially a wall of lead. It didn't just kill, it erased everything in front of it. The psychological impact was devastating. German troops began to panic at the mere sound of the pump action. The fear was so deep that the German High Command decided to fight back, not with bullets but with lawyers. In their official protest, Germany cited the Hague Convention, claiming the shotgun caused unnecessary suffering. Let that sink in for a moment. The same army that was blinding thousands of men with mustard gas had the audacity to complain about unnecessary suffering. But then they took it a step further. Germany issued a threat. Any American prisoner found with a shotgun or even shotgun shells would be executed immediately. No trial. Just a firing squad. They expected the Americans to back down. They expected the U.S. Army to recall the weapons. They were wrong. General John J. Pershing, the commander of the American forces, didn't flinch. His response was simple and brutal. He told the Germans that if one American prisoner was executed for carrying a shotgun, the U.S. would start executing German prisoners in retaliation. He didn't recall the shotguns. In fact, the army ordered more. They even developed brass shells because the paper ones were getting wet in the mud. Germany quietly dropped the threat. They realized that in a war of brutality, the Americans were ready to play by the same rules. The Model 1897 served through World War I, World War II, and even Vietnam. It proved that in war, technology matters, but psychological dominance matters even more. But I want to hear from you. Do you think Germany had a point? Was the shotgun actually too cruel for war, or was it just fair play against a ruthless enemy? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this history, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next one.